going for a manila folder look.
Right.
Was kind of Rip's idea on that one. So yeah, so the first mistake with the first edition is we targeted to coaches, and the problem is the coaches, particularly those kind of coaches, kind of the traditional in an academic setting coach,
Well, in a public school
are
setting.
not typically seekers of information. I mean, Rip talks about like what do they read, but we're talking about people that think they have something to learn, and that's not the kind of approach of learning those people typically take. The second problem is that we'd have people that were lifting. It was amazing how many people were not able to look at a book written to coaches and then apply it to themselves. They actually needed the rewrite to change the language from the coaching, or they couldn't just take it from a different perspective and
Couldn't
use it. It was actually
interpolate
hard.
To the first person from the third person.
Yeah, it was they couldn't shift perspective and just apply this stuff. A surprising number of people were just like, "But I'm not a coach." Well, can you read a book? Can you look at the ideas?
Maybe not.
And actually, that was just an extra step that made it that much harder for people to do that.
Right. So the rewrite of the second edition was designed to make the book accessible to a broader audience. And, I think it probably did. I think it did. I think we probably sold more of the second edition than we did the first.
Yes, we had it for sale longer.
Yeah,
so
it was for
the
sale
first was just for a couple of
2
years.
or 3 years.
And then the second
Well,
one
the first
was,
edition was published in 2005. The second edition, if I remember correctly, which I usually don't, was 2009. Right?
No, it was 2007.
2007.
I believe it was 2007. Yeah.
So 7. And that stayed in print until 11.
Right.
Until 2011, when the book you know as the Blue Book was published.
Right.
All right. So, and over the course of the publishing history of the book, there were, every time we sent the book to the printer, we sent along a few changes to the text within the book. And what we did was located errors or located problems with illustrations or graphics or photos, and corrected those, corrected the captions, fine-tuned some of the instruction. And none of these were major changes. They didn't rise to the level of another edition. All right, because we didn't want to issue another edition at that time. So when the second edition had been for sale for 2 or 3 years, we had been teaching the seminar for CrossFit, and we had been teaching the seminar in our own organization, and we had learned a whole bunch of stuff about how to explain things. And we decided that a third edition was necessary. Now, when you issue a new edition, there's a number tied to each one of these books, and it's called the ISBN number. And it is the reference number for the text among all of the books in print. And I believe that's the Patent and Trademark Office issues that, right?
No, it's.
How do you
through
get an
independence.
ISBN number?
You buy it through a Bowker.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a standardized format, and you purchase the numbers,
And you'll
they'll
see-
be different with not just edition but format. So an ebook's going to have a different one than a print, than a
Right.
hard soft cover,
if
than a
you
hard.
look on the back of any book you've got, you will see an ISBN number, and it's usually at the bottom near the spine. And that number is the identifying number of the book across several different formats. And so when you get a new edition, you get a new ISBN number. So when we had sent changes in on the second edition, they were just minor changes, and we didn't want to mess with a new ISBN number. So we just made little changes every time we printed the book. And then we decided to issue the third edition, and we went through and redid the entire thing. We redid the entire thing. And from front to back, we rewrote the whole thing from the perspective of having taught this material to lifters for years. And so the first printing of the third edition was where our brains were in 2011 when this thing had been issued. And then from that point on, every time we did a printing for several years, we made a few little minor changes. Join us this week on Starting Strength Radio. Our guest this week is my partner, Dr. Steph Bradford. We're going to talk about where the Blue Book came from. We're going to talk about all the stuff that led up to the Blue Book. And then we're going to talk about some of the more current thinking on Starting Strength. Some of the more current thinking. So you be here this week with us on Starting Strength Radio.